Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about my favorite books of 2022, but instead of just making it a list, I decided to do it as a reread, rewrite, burn challenge instead. So I've got my top 14 favorite books. That's how I narrowed it down. So I have 3 rounds of game, and then I have 2 books that I'm gonna just talk about in the end, 2 that I have left. These are all books that I've read in 2022, and necessarily that came out in 2022. I try to make sure that I only have 1 book per author. And if there was a series that I read in multiple installments by that would have made this list, I basically picked my favorite installment of a series and wrote that title down, but for the purposes of the challenge, they go, like, I'm gonna look at the entire series. So I think that's the most important things. All the books will be listed in the description because I'm not gonna hold them up. But yeah. So let's pick the first 3. I have The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber, and Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. Okay, that's okay. Well, I think out of these, so The Ballad of Never After are 2 books because I read both Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After this year. Name of the Wind is also 2 books because I read Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear this year, and Black Sun is only the 1 book because I haven't read book 2 yet. I really, really loved Black Sun. Can't burn that. I think the one I'm gonna burn is The Ballad of Never After. I did really enjoy it. I mean, I didn't love it as much as the original Cicero-trilogy that I read last year. But I love sort of the whimsy, almost like the nonsense of this world. I love her writing style. I don't know, I really love this world it's in, even though the plot of this series isn't completely my thing. Also it has vampires, which is a trope I don't like. So it's still a favorite, obviously. I love the world. I really like Evangeline as a character. I love the story side of it. If you read it, you know what I mean. So yeah, we're gonna burn this one before I change my mind. Then The Name of the Wind or Black Sun. Since we're going with full series instead of like single books, I'll reread Black Sun because that was amazing. I loved the world again. Like I haven't read a lot of pre-Columbian Americas inspired fantasies, and I need more. I really like that. I really like the plot. I also thought it was fun that you had both sides of the argument or of the conflict, and you don't really have like the good guys and the bad guys. And the politicking was fun, and just, yeah, again, I really love the world building of this one is also the main thing, which is funny coincidence that those two are together. And then The Name of the Wind to rewrite. It's really cozy. I love that. And I love how meandering it is, and that it's so character focused and it doesn't really have a straightforward plot necessarily. But in the second book, especially one bit, which if you've read it, it's a bit with Felurian, I think you can say that without spoiling it, that just felt so weird and unnecessary, and I wasn't a fan of that. Like, you could just take it out, and it wouldn't change the book at all. So I might take it out, or at least move it to a different place, because now there was like a couple of scenes back to back that felt like they didn't really matter at all. So it would be spaced out a bit more. That would, I think, be more enjoyable, but I would cut that bit altogether, I think. I think that's what I would do. So that was round one, so I'm gonna reread Black Sun by Roanhorse, rewrite The Name of the Wind by Rothfuss, and burn The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. Heartbreak. Okay, round two. Books of Jacob by Olga Tokarzcuk. I'm not rereading that. Loved it. It's great, but I'm not really rereading that ever. Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. And We Have Always Lived in a Castle by Shirley Jackson. Those are some pretty different books. So we have Books of Jacob, which is a Nobel Prize winner for literature. I kind of buddy read it with Pete from The Ponderings of Pete, I guess. The buddy read went really weird and really wrong, and I don't think he actually finished it ever. The buddy read was enjoyable. I loved it. I struggled with it. It went way over my head. I don't know what this book is. Also, could have been really tightened up somewhere in the middle. So that is potential rewrite. So okay, I'm not rereading that ever because it's like 900 pages and it's super complicated and it went way over my head and it took me 3 months to read. And I'm not that much of a masochist, even though I loved it. So that leaves Discovery of Witches or We Have Always Lived in a Castle. And out of those two, I think out of these three, and this is probably going to be recency bias because Books of Jacob has been the longest, but like that is like less of an emotional experience now because Discovery of Witches I read in November, so it was very recent, and then We Always Live in a Castle just impacted me a lot emotionally, and like I still thought about it a lot. While Books of Jacob, while I was reading it, was very much and I loved it, but after that I didn't really think about it necessarily a lot, just because it was so complicated, maybe. So I think we're gonna burn that one. Oh, the heartache. Um, so then it's between We've Always Lived in a Castle and Discovery of Witches. I think Discovery of Witches, like, I know what I would rewrite, and for We've Always Lived in a Castle, I have no idea what I could rewrite because I thought it was really good and I didn't have any complaints about it. So I'd say reread We've Always Lived in a Castle, and then Discovery of Witches. Um, the thing is, so you know how in Lord of the Rings you have like the big epic climax, and then like thing that like kind of feels like the ending, but it's not the ending, and there's like a whole bit after it, like a mini climax after that. It's kind of the same thing. We have this. I mean, it's not nearly as epic as um, The Lord of the Rings. Don't get me wrong. It's a romance, but you have this like thing that happens that feels like it should be the ending of the book, and like because like it's so climactic in a way, but that's like the middle, and then there's like 200 or 300 pages after that, and so we're dealing a lot with the aftermath. Um, and like it's a series. I haven't read the second book yet. Um, and while I do understand um, why it ends where it ends and not after this thing, I um, I don't know, it made the pacing just very weird. So I think I would rewrite it so that that would like be moved a bit more to the back, or I would have solved it differently so that it wouldn't be so weird. I don't know how that would work. Maybe it's said like move it to the back and then shorten the following action that is just like a long kind of wrap up thingy after big event, instead of like half of the book, and maybe move some stuff around or something. I think that's what I would do. So, um, yeah, and I'll reread People Would Live in a Castle. I really love that. Loved the atmosphere. Loved like the conversations or had. Loved the mystery element to it. Like the twist was. I mean, it didn't fully surprise me. Like it kind of could see it coming, but it didn't. Um, I still really enjoyed it. I didn't take that away. Um, so that's just a very well done book. So for the second round, I will be burning Books of Jacob by Olga Tokarzcuk. I'll be rewriting Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness and rereading We've Always Lived in a Castle by Shirley Jackson. It's only 2 rounds. I feel like I'm rambling a lot about these things. Sorry for that. The third round, I have Dictator by Robert Harris, which is the third book in the Cicero-trilogy, which starts with in Korean. The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and Films Nergens draaien by Yorick Goldewijk. So we have the final book in a trilogy that I really loved. We have Midnight Library, which is like a self-help book disguised as fiction. And then we have Films Nergens draaien, which is a Dutch middle grade time travel book. So, I mean, I love Dictator. Like, the series is just one of my favorite series of all time, which says something because I don't even like Ikuto as a person, or like as a historical figure. But I really, really like this series. So that one is going on the reread slot. Out of these two, oh, that's hard. So, Films and Draaien deals a lot with grief and stuff, and it was very powerful, and I loved the way it talks about that. Like it's a middle grade novel, so like you have to deal with it slightly differently than an adult novel. But I think it did an excellent job at that and like portraying quite a realistic um way of grief. And so I really like that. But the Midnight Library, I just read that book at the perfect time. And it really, at that moment in time, really stuck with me. And I really connected with it. And it meant a lot to me at that time. So I don't want to burn that either. Oh, this is so hard. I mean, the other two, like, I love the books that I burned, but like, it was like kind of a tier below the other two, but this one is so hard. This is so hard. Okay, what if I would rewrite them? What would I rewrite about both of these? So the Midnight Library had like a lot of different stories. And I heard from a lot of people that it got kind of repetitive after a while, which I didn't necessarily feel that way, but I totally understand that. And like maybe we can like kind of condense thing that it's because it's very formulaic. So it's like she picks a new life, she enters new life. Oh no, she doesn't know anything about this new life. Finds out about this new life. Oh no, she gets disappointed because it's not what she expected. Okay, goes back, picks another life. So it's kind of the same like formula over again, which I don't mind. I don't mind formulas in my books, so that's probably why I didn't mind as much. So, um, but I think that's the thing that could be written, like maybe taking out story, um, or like let her realize a bit sooner, like what she realized at the end. Um, so that could be this. Films in nergens draaien. I just don't know what I would rewrite. I like yeah, I think this was just a very excellent book. I don't know what to rewrite. I couldn't do it better. So for that reason I think I'm gonna rewrite the Midnight Library and then as I said, remove like one of the lives or something. Um or a few or at least condense it more. I don't know. Or make sure it's not as formulaic as it is. And then Films the Eyes is gonna be burned just because I don't know what to rewrite about it. So third round, I'm gonna reread Dictator by Robert Harris, which I'm actually gonna do because Alan from the Library of Alexandria. Wow, the Library of Alexandria is hosting a read along of this, and so I'm gonna reread the series for that. So I'm gonna reread that. I'm gonna rewrite The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and I'm gonna burn Films nergens draaien by Yorick Goldewijk, which hurts even more than the last two. Oh, don't think about it, don't think about it. Okay, the last round is Les Jardins de Zagarand by Éric de Kermel. There is no English version. Also, films that exist, there's no English version. That's why I don't use the English titles. If it exists, I use the English title. If not, then I use the original language too. But it doesn't matter. Then I have Cinder by Marissa Meyer. And The 1619 Project, Born on the Water by Nikole Hannah-Jones, Renée Watson, and Nikkolas Smith. Wow, we get some really different books in here. So, okay, oh, these books are so different. I don't even know where to start. So Cinder kind of has recency bias, I guess, because I read it September, October. When did I read it? I just finished the second book in that series, so it's very fresh on my mind, and I really, really loved it. It's kind of like the perfect balance of retelling while also being its own thing. I really love it. So, I don't know, it's like if you don't know, it's like a Cinderella retelling, except she's a cyborg and there's this disease in the country, whatever. 1619 Project was such a surprise to me. I know it's a picture book in verse about American slavery. And like I'd heard a couple of things that kind of made me hesitant, but when I read it, it was amazing. Like I loved how it wasn't like doom and gloom type of thing, even with like such a serious topic as this. It stayed like hopeful, and it wasn't like, because I mean it's for children, obviously, like it was meant for children, so it has to stay light, and it's more a message of like, look how strong our ancestors are. And I don't know, I really appreciate it. And then Le Jardin de Zagarand was so, that's like, this is my favorite standalone of all time. I loved it. It was like an exploration of a way of living in harmony with nature and each other, and didn't really have a plot, but didn't need a plot. It was perfect. It was just perfect. And I'm not burning. There's no way I'm burning that. Like, okay, I think that out of these three, I should have to burn Cinder. Not because like this is like the hardest round for burning, like truly. I think I should burn Cinder just because recency bias is a thing. I read this, like, as I said, I just finished book 2 like 2 days ago. And like the other two I both read in January, and even after this time, like they're still like I'd still like put them like slightly higher than Cinder. So like if the recency bias wouldn't be eliminated, the like Cinder would definitely be like a step below in my experience. Because also 1690 Project and Zagarand both really like are emotional to me. And for Cinder, I just appreciate the craft of it, and I appreciate doing something that I'd been looking for a very long time, and I'd never seen it done the way I want it to be done. But now found that, and so I appreciate it more because of that instead of like really because I felt emotionally connected to it all, if that makes sense. I mean, I was emotionally connected and I loved the story, obviously. That's not what I'm saying, but it was more with the other two. So I'm going to burn Cinder. And then between these two, I'm going to kind of use the same reasoning as the previous one. I'm going to go with the 1619 project to reread, just because I don't know what I would rewrite about it. It was amazing. Like, for what it was perfect. And I need to reread that. Actually, it's almost exactly a year ago, because that's like one of the first books that I read in January. Like in the first week of January, I remember that. I read like some shorter things on ebook because the library was closed because of the holidays. So I had to make some of there, and I don't love reading like really long things on ebooks, so I was picking like shorter stuff, and this was one of them. It was amazing, and I would like to reread it. Maybe I do that. And then Le Jardin de Zagarand, rewrite, because there's one teeny tiny complaint that I have it. Other than that, it's perfect for me. The ending, like I said, it was kind of plotless. Like obviously there was like a overarching plot type of thing, like what set the book in motion. But it was really not a focus. It was very themes driven. Um, but like the ending, suddenly the plot did get resolved, and I thought it was just like that a bit rushed, maybe. Like it happened really quick, and I would love for the ending to be a bit slower, like the rest of the book. I mean, it's like it's not a long book. It really like a couple extra pages in the end wouldn't have really mattered. But then it wouldn't feel as rushed there. Um, so that's what I would rewrite. So I'm gonna reread the 1619 Project, Born on the Water by Nikole Hannah-Jones, Renée Watson, and Nikkolas Smith. Rewrite Le Jardin des Zagarand by Éric de Kermel, and burn Cinder by Marissa Meyer. And then, like, that was like the last round because I only have two left. I can't really do a full round with those. So I'm just gonna talk to you about them. So the first one of those is Things My Son Needs to Know About the World by Fredrik Backman. So I've read, in the past year, I read two books by him. Things My Son Needs to Know About the World and Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer. And like maybe the other one could have made it on here, but I wanted only one book per author, and I thought this was, I don't know, I like this a bit more and it hit a bit harder. I love Fredrik Backman's humor. I love how he clearly loved his son so much. You could really tell from this book. So yeah, it was amazing. Like some advice that he gave his son. That hit really close to home, kind of. It was. I just had a smile on my face the entire time, and I thought about it even after. I literally, like, I was reading upstairs in my room, and then my family was sitting downstairs. I literally came down and like, I have to read this aloud to you guys multiple times, and it's not a long book. So I think that shows that it was really good and really impactful and also funny. Um, and I really like Fredrik Backman's books, like the ones that I've read. So I read, as I said, those two, and then I also read My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You That She's Sorry by him. Like, I really like all of his books, but I don't adore him as much as a lot of people on BookTube seem to do. So like he's not a favorite of all time type of author for me, but he's definitely a favorite of the year type of author for me. And so for this year, that was Things My Son Needs to Know About the World. And the last book, I kind of lost track of which one of it I have, so I had no idea what this is. Okay. Oh, okay, right. Right. It's Rebecca by Daphne DuMaurier. Okay, so before this year, I always thought I would like gothic novels. I didn't think they would be for me. Yeah, I wasn't interested in them. And then I thought, you know what, let's try them. And so I did. I read Mexican Gothic first, and I really loved that at the time. And then I read We've Always Lived in a Castle by Shirley Jackson, and I really loved that. And I read Rebecca, and I also loved it, and I think I just love Gothic novels. I didn't know I didn't want to give it a chance initially, but I do really like it. The atmosphere was really good. I could picture everything so well. I also love like the exploration of insecurities that you can have as like the second wife, maybe, and like feeling like you are like an intruder in your own marriage, in your own house. I think that was portrayed very well. I also really liked the ending. I don't know, it left kind of it was, can I say that it was a bit open-ended. Um, and I still don't fully know what happens, but it was also still satisfying, which is a balance that um, not every author is necessarily able to hit. So I think that was very well done. Yeah, I just really liked it. It was, and it was like the atmosphere was so good. I had like a library copy, but it was like an older copy, so like the pages were all yellowed and stuff. And I mean, I think that added to the atmosphere as well. But it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I want to read more by Daphne du Maurier. Gonna try. I want to read My Cousin Rachel. I love the movie, but it's one of my favorite movies. But I haven't read the book. I should probably someday. It's on a list somewhere to maybe potentially ever get read, but probably not because I have too many books on that list to read in an entire lifetime, and I only keep adding them. And every year I add more than I read. So who knows if I ever get to read it. But I thought that this book was excellent. So those were my 14 favorite books of the year. I actually wanted to go over 12, but I just couldn't narrow it down anymore. My heart was breaking already, so I kept it at 14. That's why there were 14. So if you've read any of these books, let me know if you liked them, if you agree with me, if you would rewrite other things, if you would burn them, if you hated them. My feelings are going to be hurt, but it's fine. And I hope that I will see you again in another video. Bye. Wants to stop.